You probably don't think of Halloween as the best time to garden, but for me in my garden, it's actually my favorite time of the year to be planting things. And that's because we get to plant my favorite low maintenance crop, which is garlic. And today, Meg and I are going to show you exactly how you can plant your garlic too. So we have our Halloween costumes on because we're here to celebrate, and we're gonna plant some garlic, so let's get started. So when you're trying to decide where to plant your garlic, you can plant in ground or in raised beds. I plant it in the ground just because I plant a lot of garlic. This is probably a 20-foot run that I have here, and it takes up a lot of space. They need to be pretty far apart, which we'll get into the spacing in a little while. But because of that, I didn't want to utilize a raised bed space, which is a lot more confined. This is an area that also gets at least 6 hours a day of sunlight. Garlic loves full sun. It needs full sun to thrive.
It's a really good idea to practice crop rotation with your garlic. Crop rotation just means planting something somewhere different every year and try not to plant the same thing in the same bed for at least 3 years. This isn't something that's mandatory by any means, and if you're gardening in a smaller space, you may not be able to. And actually, a lot of people don't practice crop rotation and they're just fine. But if you're able to, I really recommend it as a preventative measure. I used to be somebody that didn't really practice crop rotation, and I had to learn the hard way by losing an entire bed of tomatoes one time because of it, and it wasn't a fun time. One reason I feel like I need to rotate my garlic is because last year when I was harvesting, I lost a few garlic to wireworms. Thank goodness it was just a few, but if I were to replant in the same spot, it could be a lot worse than that. And the last thing we want to do is put all this time and effort into a crop of garlic and then have to lose it all come harvest time. And when you're dealing with wireworms, crop rotation is really the only thing that you can do to prevent them. So I'm planting these garlic in a spot that I've never planted garlic before to give them the best chance.
So garlic is a really heavy feeder, and this is actually really good soil, so I don't need to do a heck of a lot of amending. But generally speaking, garlic wants a lot of nitrogen when you first plant it. So if your soil isn't already in really great shape, you're going to want to amend that either with some compost, some aged manure, alfalfa meal works great. I just have this basic kind of seafood based plant food that I sprinkle over. I'm going to be working this in as I make my holes and actually plant the cloves. So I don't need to do a whole lot of work turning the soil in advance. I can do that simultaneously with planting.
To prep my bed here for planting garlic, I've added some compost to replenish nutrients lost by the plants that thrived here over the summer. I also sprinkled in some worm castings as well, just to add a little additional boost. Worm castings are organic material just like compost, but instead of being material that's broken down over time like compost, worm castings are essentially just worm poop, but they have some added bacteria and enzymes that compost doesn't. So worm castings are totally optional, but I always like to add them in. I feel like it gives my garlic a little boost. Then I just like to top my bed with mulch. It can be any kind of mulch, but my mulch of choice is wheat straw, and that just keeps the soil and garlic roots nice and cozy over the winter months.
Here in the Northeast, where we get a really cold winter, I grow hardneck. Hardneck actually needs a chilling period to properly germinate. So if you're growing hardneck in a warmer climate, you actually have to stick it in the fridge for 2 or 3 months to kind of give it a false winter. Hardneck varieties don't store quite as long, anywhere from like 4 to 6 months, but they have a lot more flavor and they produce escape, which for me is like just as exciting as the actual garlic harvest.
I live in North Carolina, zone 7B, and luckily here we're able to plant both hardneck and softneck. However, over the last few years of growing garlic, I've found that I get much bigger and healthier bulbs with softnecks. So although I'll still be planting both, I want to plant much more softneck than hardneck this year. Softneck is different from hardneck in that it's more suited for warmer temperatures. Usually it's thriving in zones 8 through 12. I'm in zone 7B, but I'm literally teetering right on the edge of being in zone 8, so that's why I can grow it so well here. Softnecks also lack that hard stem in the middle that hardnecks have, hence the name, and that makes this variety easy to store by braiding them together. The softneck can be a more mild flavor than hardnecks, and softneck is typically what we find in our local grocery stores. They can actually store much longer than hardnecks and can store about 9 months compared to 6 months for hardneck. But with softneck, you unfortunately don't get those delicious garlic scapes, so each garlic kind of has its pros and cons, but I like the storage capabilities of the softneck a little more.
Now, this is a hotly debated topic. Can you grow garlic from the grocery store? So basically what was happening is a lot of these stores were spraying their garlic with anti-sprouting agents. Even if you get your garlic to plant from a farmer's market and you know it's fully organic and it hasn't been sprayed, it's very unlikely that it's guaranteed to be disease-free for growing. And this can be a huge issue, especially when it comes to garlic rust. So if you're concerned about that, for me, I grow a huge amount of garlic. So for me, it's really important that I can depend on that variety to not have any disease in it. It's not worth experimenting for me. If you want to experiment, go for it. We're going to put our link down below for the varieties we recommend.
Garlic is typically planted in the fall, and this can vary between growing zones, but wherever you are, you just want to make sure that you're planting it at least 2 weeks before your first frost. Here in North Carolina, Zone 7B, many gardeners like myself have this little tradition of planting on Halloween, you know, to scare off the vampires. This gives your garlic enough time to establish and get cozy before that first frost, and it sets you up for a harvest around July. Yes, garlic takes just as long as a human child to grow, around 9 whole months. Some people hear that and they say, wow, is that even worth it to grow garlic? But garlic is really low maintenance. Once I've planted my garlic, I just forget about it until July. As long as you have prepped your soil well and you've amended your soil well when planting, you don't have to think about it again until it's time to harvest. Now I'm gonna go plant my garlic.
When we're spacing our garlic, the further apart we can plant them, the larger our resulting bulbs will end up being. So anywhere from 4 to 8 inches apart is a good range depending on the variety that you're growing. Because music is a larger variety, we definitely want to give them more space rather than less. And then for depth, it's anywhere from 2 to 4 inches. And the way that you'll figure that out is you want about 2 inches of soil over the very top point of that clove. So however big your clove is going to determine the depth. You can also pack more cloves in depending on how you orient your rows. If you make them exactly parallel together, you're going to need more space versus if you actually did kind of an alternating pattern, you actually maximize your space better.
When it comes to companion planting, I'm going to be planting some strawberry runners in between my rows of garlic. This will work well because garlic repels a lot of insects that want to eat your strawberries. I also have a rosemary bush in this bed that will help deter pests as well. And legend has it that rosemary planted with garlic will actually improve garlic's flavor.
I'm companion planting flowers in with my garlic. Flowers and garlic do really well together because garlic is a natural pest deterrent. So I have some calendula seeds here. This is a great time of year to plant these because they're kind of a wildflower seed and you can just surface sow them across the whole area and they'll pop up in between your garlic next year and kind of work symbiotically together. With the garlic in the ground, the last thing that we need to do is protect these plants from the cold winter. And the best way to do that is with a blanket of mulch. I like to use straw. It's super cheap. It's super lightweight. Just make sure you don't get hay because that has seeds in it, which can cause a whole host of other problems. But what this will do is actually prevent the plants from freezing if we do get a deep freeze. And it breaks down really, really fast. So you can see it's already kind of broken down because I had this out here already, but it will last just long enough, basically the 10 months I need until we harvest the garlic next year. It will also keep the ground from heaving, and that's where we see periods where the ground thaws and then freezes again, which can actually heave it and push those cloves up out of the surface, which we definitely do not want. With these tips, you should be ready to successfully grow your own garlic at home. So please let us know in the comments if you have any questions at all, and let us know what you're dressing up as for Halloween. And thank you so much to Meg for doing this video with me. If you haven't already, head over to her page and make sure you hit subscribe. She has some awesome garden content on there as well that you don't want to miss.